Joy Reid has a curious claim about American history. And her curious claim is that she built the country.
I mean, to be a black person in, 2024 in America is to be in a state of complete perplexed confusion about what is wrong with a country that hates your history, to this day can't admit even the basics of what was done to your ancestors. And to find out that literally Barack Obama's 2 terms as president are your reparations, and Juneteenth, which you already celebrated anyway, is your reparations, and yet you built this country. You literally physically built this country, and yet the attitude toward you from a lot of your peers and your fellow citizens is just shut up and be grateful.
That is certainly my attitude to Joy Reid. That's true. It's not my attitude to all people or to all black people, but it is certainly my attitude to Joy Reid. Joy Reid's parents are immigrants. Joy Reid's father came from Congo. Joy Reid's mother came from Guyana. Joy Reid is a first-generation American. Not one single person in her family tree had any connection to slavery. Not one single person in her family tree was here more than 1 generation ago. Joy Reid has had absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with the building of this country. Her effect on America has only been negative, in as much as she goes on left-wing cable news shows and yaps and degrades our country. But beyond that, let's take Joy Reid out of her commentary for a moment. She's saying this is really awful because to be a black person in America today is to know that you built this country. Your ancestors were brought over here in chains, and you built this country, and you get nothing for it. No affirmative action, no special programs, no DEI, no this, no that. She's ignoring all of those things. She says you get nothing for it, even though your ancestors built this country. But what that ignores is that for a huge number of black people in America today, their ancestors had nothing to do with building this country, because 12% of black people in the United States today are immigrants. Just that number alone, I think, totally destroys any argument that America is systemically racist toward black people, any of the George Floyd BLM Marxist nonsense. The fact that 12%, a full 12% of American black people today are immigrants, they chose to come here, totally destroys that argument. But in addition to that, another 9% of black people in America today are the children of immigrants, meaning that 21%, little more than 1 in 5 black people in America today, have absolutely no historical connection to the country. And yet we are told they are robbed of what they are owed for their ancestors' contributions. They are systematically discriminated against, and they deserve reparations. Reparations for what? If there were to be a system of reparations for slavery, Joy Reid would be the first person in line with her hand out asking for them. She is here. That is what she is asking for here. At the very least, I think all reasonable people should agree that Joy Reid has no claim on reparations. But the same could be said of at least 1 in 5 black people currently in the United States. And that doesn't take into account people 2 to 3 generations ago whose ancestors immigrated here long after slavery. Seems to me the woman undercuts her own argument by her very character. Now, speaking of racial politics, my friend Ann Coulter just displayed what Bill Maher described as a superpower on his show, this in response to a mass shooting.
I mean, we don't know who did this shooting, by the way. The Super Bowl shooting.
We have some idea.
What?
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
Well, we don't know. But they haven't.
That's how we know it's not a white man. I can tell you that much.
But you think they were repressing that reporting?
They wouldn't tell us about the transgender woman that shot up the Christian school for what, like a year? San Bernardino out here. Remember the crazy terrorist Muslims? That's when I first noticed, they're not telling us who it is. It's not a white male. The longer they go without telling you, it's not a white male.
Okay, well, for this one, for right now, as of Friday night, February 16th.
We know.
We don't officially know. Okay, you have special powers.
And those special powers are called common sense. What's funny is Anne is sitting here on a panel with Van Jones, who is the black, fairly liberal, but somewhat more reasonable CNN commentator. And you'll notice Van Jones is quiet during this whole exchange because Van Jones knows that Anne is right. And as of now, by the way, there are a lot of thoughts and suggestions as to who the shooter is. We actually still don't know for sure. There was a picture of a guy getting arrested at the Chiefs parade that actually was not the shooter. So the authorities are not telling us much about the identity of the perpetrators. But to Anne's point, we know. We know because this is always the case. Anne has been making this point for years that the longer it takes for the media to report on the race and sex of the shooter, the less likely it is that that's a white man. And it drops off precipitously. When it's a white guy, you know immediately. When it's a white guy, you get the manifesto ASAP. When it's not a white guy, when it's a lady, whatever, then the FBI is going to keep that manifesto under lock and key. It's all going to be very vague. Certainly when it's a black person, it's just, suspect. There's no mention of anything. The only group that we are encouraged to target and malign, discriminate against by law, yes, but also culturally to insult and malign, is straight white men who know that they're men. That's the only group. And so that's the group you're going to see in the headlines. In an age of absurdity, common sense seems like a superpower. There is a new suggestion of a new vice presidential pick for Joe Biden. Not for Trump. There's a lot of speculation over who Trump's running mate is going to be, but for Biden. Biden's current VP is Kamala Harris, who is one of the least talented politicians I've ever seen. She did rise to a very high level of politics, and the way she did it has been well documented, and we don't need to get into it here. But she's not impressive on the campaign trail. She's got a very low approval rating. She's obviously unfit to be the president of the United States, and she's dragging Joe Biden down, if that were even possible. She's at least keeping him down. So there's been a lot of chatter among the Democrats. If we can't replace Biden, at the very least, we should be able to replace Kamala Harris. So people have suggested Susan Rice. Susan Rice was the fall guy for Barack Obama in Benghazi. Remember, the Obama administration pinned all of the blame for the Benghazi terror attack and the lies that they ended up telling about it on Susan Rice. So she's already got a lot of baggage going in, but she's got something going for her, which is she's a black woman, and Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick a black woman to be my VP. The reason I think this is nonsense, that Susan Rice could be the VP pick, is because they already had their chance to do this. When Joe Biden came out and said, I'm going to pick a black woman to be my running mate, there were three choices. There were three choices of prominent Democrat women who were black who could plausibly take on that role. The choices were Karen Bass in California, who's an actual communist, like has been a member of communist organizations and is, let's just say, not up to the task. Then there was Susan Rice, who is certainly much smarter and more impressive, but was the fall guy for Benghazi and just has too much baggage. And then there was Kamala Harris, who looked fine at the time. She had a warm body, she had a beating heart. People thought she could form a coherent sentence at the time. So they figured, all right, I guess it's going to be her. And she still remains basically the best choice for it. You're not going to push out the first black woman vice president very easily. There are all these rumors. Maybe the Democrats will pay her a lot of money. They'll give her some giant foundation to run. It's not going to matter. She doesn't want to get rid of that. She sees what they see. They say, oh, we can't keep her in this position because Joe Biden is on the brink of death. And she's looking at that and she's saying, yeah. Hey, take a walk down those stairs, Joe. Hey. So it's just not going to happen. It also shows weakness on a ticket. When you swap out the running mate, it shows that you're afraid that you're going to lose. And what the Democrats are projecting is strength. And also, Joe Biden's the president. And even though the Democrat establishment seems to be done with him, he wants to keep his job. Man, what a great clip that was. Now, hold up, ring that bell, subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel, and we will see you next time.